Good morning, guys. This is a pre-draft combine, rookies 11 through 20. But before we get to that, let's get to this.
Jordan Rains here with the IDP 411 podcast. Just want to tell you guys today about our sponsor of the show, expandtheboxscore.com. Expandtheboxscore.com has premium NFL and college football stats. They're adaptable, they're affordable, there's all kinds of great stuff on there from the NFL to college football. It's great for people that are in the Devy leagues looking to get that edge over their league mates. So go check out expandtheboxscore.com, proud sponsor of the show. And now, without further ado, on to the IDP 411. What's up?
What up, gentlemen? This is the IDP 411. I'm Jared Gray, Jordan Rains, and the Dynasty Chef.
What's up, guys?
Some crazy stuff this morning.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's get right to it.
Let's do it.
I'm going to go with my guy, obviously, because I've been high on him for a long time. And for me, that would be Neville Gallimore. I would say the biggest things for Neville Gallimore is when he first started, he was kind of more of like the just sit there and hold blockers. He wasn't a guy they pushed down the field, and that's on Stoops, not Bob Stoops, his brother, when he's defensive coordinator. He just made him sit there, and since then, he's had a total 147 total tackles, which is a lot for a defensive tackle. 6.5 tackles for loss. He's had 21.5 tackles for loss over the last 3 years.
Woo!
That's a lot for a guy that was just basically there to just sit there and stop. You know what I mean? People. You got to see him in person. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, Steve and I got to see him at the Senior Bowl. I mean, he looked really good to me. I remember him being very fluid. The coaches seemed to really like him. I noticed that. He picked up on what they're saying. He seemed very coachable, I guess is the right way to say it. So, yeah, I like him a lot. I think, if you're in a D-tackle specific league, he's one of the top 3 guys in this class, him, Kinlaw, and Brown. So, yeah, I think he's a great pick at number 11. I think he's a safe pick. He's going to have a pretty solid floor, and I think he's got a lot of ceiling too. We did talk to him on the field a little bit, Steve and I did, and, he seemed, very business oriented, but he was also like really chill. So, I think he's got the right mindset and the right skill set, to be a playmaker in the NFL.
Yeah, I like him.
He's going to be a first-round pick. Pretty much consensus. So, well, not completely consensus, but I've seen a lot of mocks that have him going in the first round.
Yeah, so he's in my late mock first round. I think the combine is going to be a big deal for him and a lot of guys that we talk about today. I can see a guy or two on our list that could drop. If they jack up the combine, they could drop to the third round, and I really mean that. So we'll see with Gallimore. I think he's going to ball out. I think he's going to run a 4.740. At 300 pounds, a 4.740 is ridiculous. So we'll see what happens. The next guy we want to talk about is a guy that I was super impressed with, and I know that you guys got to see him also, was Bradlee Anae.
Yeah.
And have Steve pop him up for us real quick. And
yeah,
he's a big guy for me.
He was another guy that at the Senior Bowl that stood out. He seemed to be, just very cerebral, very kind of aware. A lot of people were kind of gravitating towards him whenever we were talking to him. And when he went out and played that week, he had like 3 sacks. There was a lot of guys from Utah represented at the Senior Bowl, and there's going to be a lot of guys from Utah drafted. They had a great defense. He was there too from that defense, and who else was there? I think Eason was there, right? Is that their quarterback? No, it's Washington. Jordan Love. He was there.
Oh, Jordan Love went to Utah State.
Oh, different. Okay. Well, there was a lot of guys from Utah there, but Bradlee Anae, to me, he's a kind of a sleeper in this draft at defensive end or edge rusher, I guess. I haven't seen him go in the first round.
He had 13 sacks today or 13 sacks this year. He had 3 in the Senior Bowl against some good guys that had good offensive line in the Senior Bowl. 14 tackles for loss. I don't think they never let him really pin his ears back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We have the interview we did with him is 2 episodes back. If you guys are listening, IDP Army, what's up, guys? It's also on our YouTube channel, so you can check that out. But I think that he's got a high floor. I think he has a pretty high ceiling. If he ends up on the right team that needs an edge rusher, and I know he's going to see the field a lot, I'm going to be drafting him a lot. Probably in the 3rd, 4th round of rookie drafts this year.
I like his attitude.
Yeah. He's a headhunter. He just, back and forth, up and down. I'm buying in. Maybe that's, maybe there's not as much analysis there as there
I think he's a guy that could slip out of the 2nd round, but he's also a guy that could slip into the 1st round.
I know.
If somebody likes him enough, he looks really good at the Senior Bowl.
He's technical. He's powerful. He's smooth. He's the right size. He's got the right mentality. His dad, he said in our interview, his dad played for the Eagles. So, he's got NFL pedigree. He knows what to do. He's going to get drafted, and I think he's going to perform. So,
yeah, I like him. I think he's going to be a solid dude. I really think that people are going to get what they want.
I'm excited to see his athletic testing scores this week at the Combine for sure.
Me too. They're doing a few new things at the Combine this year. So I'm pretty excited just to see that. I got another guy. I'm a small school guy. I like those guys that come out of nowhere, and we've got 2 or 3 on this list. Obviously, Utah's not a small school, but let's be real. How many Utah guys do we really talk about? They've got some guys that are going to play this year, though. It seems like there's always that 1 or 2 player from Boise State that has a big, we got to get this guy, Leighton Vander Esch, right? When he came out, he was a guy like, oh, this guy's ridiculous, and then
I want to
just got that 1 or 2 guy from that area that you're just like, okay, this dude's a baller. So the next guy we're going to talk about Curtis Weaver, which I think you can see this guy legit make some moves. 52 tackles this year, 32 solo, 13.5 sacks, 19.5 tackles for loss. That's not a bad year for a defensive lineman.
Yeah. And,
I think this defensive line class is solid, dude.
I do. I think there's going to be some guys that you can play this year that will be, more than serviceable, kind of like last year when you got, Montez Sweat, Josh Allen, Max Crosby. I think there's going to be a couple of guys that, like that in this class. And Curtis Weaver definitely has what it looks like it takes to be that guy. I haven't watched a whole lot of him, but the stuff that I have watched, he looks just powerful. He looks like he knows how to use his body to get where he wants to go and quickly. So I like him.
Yeah, he's a stud, man. I think people are going to be – he's going to be one of those guys that he's so sound and he's such a small school guy, so he's got a lot of stuff to prove. Boise State, I guess you can say, is not a small school, but let's be real. They're not a Power 5 team, so you're instantly not a big school guy. Even though Boise State has been, the early 2000s was a beast of a school when it came to upsetting everybody. And Curtis Weaver, and they've always put out a guy or two, DeMarcus Lawrence, Curtis Weaver, LV, so I just want him to stay healthy and prove that he can ball out. And I think he can. We'll just see where he's at. Not really sure. I'm going to throw in some linebackers here a little bit for our next guy. I like Zack Baun. And I know that you guys got to see him a little bit too. He's a guy that really could show himself to be a leader in the group. 75 tackles, 52 solo, 12.5 sacks. Baun's kind of like that. I don't know who I really can compare him to. You got to see him in person. Does he look as jacked as he is in person?
Yeah, he was a pretty big dude. They were putting him kind of all over the field. They had him playing inside linebacker a little bit, but he seemed to excel really when they put him up on the line and had him kind of rush a little bit from what I saw.
I mean, he's 6'3", 235. I mean, he's
19 and a half tackles for loss. I mean, that's a big number right there. And
I mean, I'll take that out of a linebacker.
Yeah. And to know that he can play linebacker or at end, he's definitely a guy that, he's going to go in the first 2 rounds, probably in the top, 40, 45 picks, if I had to guess. I was looking at a mock earlier today that had him going to the Colts at 34. I thought that Colts seem to be very defense minded right now. They need a quarterback, but to get a guy like Baun in the 2nd round, I like it.
I'm a little worried about that. Well, for the Colts, I don't know if the Colts take him just because they've got a pretty good group at linebacker with Walker and Leonard, depending on what they decide to do.
Yeah, Houston's getting a little old though, And
Houston could definitely use him.
He's good. I mean, he was good last year. He was top 10, top 12 guy. I'm pretty sure from what I remember, in IDP 1-2-3 scoring. But I mean, Banagu, whatever that guy's name was, he didn't.
Ben Banagu.
Yeah, Ben Banagu. He had a kind of year, and maybe they bring in Baun, and they make them kind of shake it out, and maybe bring them up and together, and get one more year out of Houston. Maybe another if he has another good year.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. Ben Banagu led the league in college. He led the league in quarterback pressures, and then now you're like, what did he do last year? And I don't really know. Maybe he just didn't get the playbook, so you could see that, but definitely could see Zack Baun come up. I mean, the 52 solo tackles basically just screams Matt Milano to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sacks. I like the tackles for loss. I like that the people and a lot of the scouts at Senior Bowl seem to like Zack Baun. I like that his draft capital has generally been pretty high all through draft season. So there's a lot to like about him for IDP for the next year and, versatility. Maybe he does get some actual linebacker play as well as some pass rushing snaps. So.
Okay, so the next guy that I'm going to talk about, who I really, really like, and I know that you guys had asked me about him prior when I was here, and I appreciate you guys looking out for me, wanting me to ask questions even though I wasn't at the Senior Bowl. Akeem Davis-Gaither. For me, I love, guys from small schools. Like I said, Appalachian State finally, became a Division I a couple years ago. To have 101 tackles last year and basically 50 solo, 50 sacks, or 5 sacks, not 50, 14 and a half tackles for loss. And, dude, to me, he looks about as cut as it comes for a guy who's a small school guy that really got overlooked coming out, to go to college.
I agree. I think he might be the sleeper of this group. We should have had him up at 11. I think that he's, like you said, kind of been slept on. I mean, he had 101 total tackles this last year, but as a junior, he had 96. I mean, he had 7 and 8 pass deflections the past 2 years. So I mean, he knows kind of what's going on. I think, and he produced 2 years in a row. It wasn't like it was just a 1-year thing either. 14 and a half tackles for loss. I mean, he can get behind the line of scrimmage. So I like that a lot. And he, at the Senior Bowl, we did get to see him too. So a lot of these guys kind of in this later part of this, list here, some of them we got to see at the Senior Bowl. I mean, he looked good and he was getting a lot of attention from the coaches too. And, he's from the scouts from what I saw. So there was a lot of teams very interested in him. There are a lot of teams that would benefit from a guy like him too. I mean, the Raiders, maybe they wait and don't take one of those really, really big big names in the first round, and maybe they get Davis-Gaithers, around.
Yeah, he's a guy that he could jump in. I think he could be a late 2nd round guy.
But I could see a team going to get him too if they really wanted him and just maybe making a little bit of move, maybe overpaying to be like, this is it,
Yeah, this dude. I mean, if you watch the tape on this guy, he definitely sees the play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to have 100 tackles your junior and senior season, at Appalachian State, and people can say they're a small school all you want. but they've got some guys, hit 100 tackles each year. 14.5 tackles for loss last year just tells me he sees the play, and that's something that intrigues the crap out of me when it comes to a player that, hey, let's go get this dude, because he sees it. He actually reminds me a lot of Kenneth Murray in that aspect, because you just want to see a guy that can see a play develop, and I think he sees that,
and make the right,
which is why he's so intriguing to me. Another guy I want to talk about, a guy that it seems like he's flying up draft boards, is Kyle Duggar. You guys got to see him. He definitely has a swagger about him. He was the smallest school guy that went to the group, right? 237 tackles, 152 solo, at the small school. I just think he flew under the radar, because you don't have 10 interceptions, 6.5 tackles for loss, 152 solo tackles, 36 pass deflections, 6 forced fumbles, and 6 fumble recoveries. Bro, that's why he went to the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
Because those stats are gaudy.
Yeah, those are.
And he looked as advertised, right?
Yeah, he looked good at the Senior Bowl, and a lot of the scouts, the guys, a lot of that stuff. I'm, kind of new to this stuff. I don't know necessarily what I'm looking at. There's a lot of different stuff happening on the field, a lot of different position players, but you talk to the guys around you, and there's just hundreds of NFL scouts and, guys that do this for a living, and have done it a lot longer than I have. And he was somebody that was consistently brought up on the defensive side that looked, like you said, looked as advertised. They're like, we were very interested to see him, because we kind of heard, and here he is here, so we get to see it. And they're like, he was definitely a standout on the defensive back squad at the Senior Bowl during practice.
Let me give a quick shout out to our man Steve, because I'm loving this card right here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just basically, if this doesn't show what just the way he acts with his arms spread out and everything, that just tells you everything about this kid. He's got some swagger. He's
confident.
He's confident. He's a baller. And I love to see that. I love seeing a small school guy make the jump, and be somebody. He's a perfect story for the NFL too. And this is what you want to see, guys like that. And I really like him. I think he's going to be.
He should be a combine too, because he looks like an athletic freak. So
yeah, I'm excited to see. I mean, you don't put those stats up and not be athletic. I can't wait to see what his. I want to see if he's going to break into the 4.4 range. If he runs a 4.4 and he has some good drills, watch out. He could be that guy that falls himself.
He might be my favorite defensive back prospect in this class. If I'm being
number 2 Okudah's got to be number 1 for me. I mean,
I'm talking pro IDP. If this guy plays safety or comes up in the box and plays like some linebacker, like Jabril Peppers or some crazy shit, I think that he's going to be a gold mine. So I hope he gets drafted high, so that I know he's on the field a lot, and that's going to make me want to draft him.
Another guy that's climbing up boards, it seems like, Troy Dye. He's a guy that I like, and I finally got to watch some tape on him towards the end of the season. 84 tackles, 52 solo out of a corner safety area guy, that 4 pass deflections, 9.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks. Those are some pretty good numbers from a guy that you don't expect that out of a defensive back. You know what I mean?
Troy Dye, he's a linebacker.
Well, sorry, a guy who not a defensive back, a guy who was brought in
safety,
as a defensive back and do what he did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he was one of the first guys that I took notice of in this class. For whatever reason, I was watching some stuff on Oregon, and he just kept kind of popping up. I've been following him on Twitter.
To be honest, he had a down year. Did he get injured this year? Do you know?
I don't remember hearing anything about that. I do know
Steve will look something for us up.
I do remember that. I mean, he's played all 4 years. He's been pretty consistent. I mean, 90 tackles, 91, 107, 109, and then 84. So he was a little lower this year. But maybe they did play him more in coverage, like you were saying, and that took away some of that.
Yeah, I'm not really. I'll have to look at that. I think in general, he could be a guy that, and like I said, the combine could show a lot for him. You know, I love the pass deflections. I love the tackles for loss. You know, two and a half sacks, which means I would tell you they put in more, in the backside. But he honestly reminds me a lot of Jayon Brown when you're talking about stat wise. We're talking about a guy who's prototypical. He played in 13 games this year, Steve said. So, he played basically every game this year. He must have missed one game because I know they played 14 because they played in the championship game, or their championship game at the Pac-12. So yeah, he must have missed one game somewhere. But I mean, he's 6'4", 230, but he's got coverage skills. It looks like, and to have 2.5 sacks, he also caused 2 forced fumbles. He had 2 interceptions this year, 4 pass deflections. I mean, you can't. Pretty solid, dude.
I think he's going to be a solid prospect. I mean, especially if he could get on the field. I mean, he's got the tools. He's got the experience. He's been a starter. All 4 years. He's been productive all 4 years. What's not to love about that? So,
yeah. The next guy that I want to talk about is a guy that I'm a little weary about. He's on our list because he's at the right school, right? And for me, Terrell Lewis is the combine could seriously hurt this guy if he doesn't test well, because he did not have a big year this year, right? 11 tackles for loss, great. 6 sacks, average. 31 tackles, 21 solo. They had the schedule this year where he should have balled out. I mean, he could have just launched up the draft board if he had the year that, I think they expected out of him, because they played in enough small schools and really schools that weren't that great. I think they only played 2 ranked schools, right, until they played Michigan in the bowl game. So they played 3 ranked schools, I think. They lost 2 of those, by the way. I really expected more out of him, and I think this is where I'm iffy about him, right?
Yeah.
He was one of those big tier guys that, high prospects come out of high school that you just don't know what could happen at the combine. What do you think?
Yeah, I want to see how he does at the combine, I guess. He didn't really, like you say, he didn't really have a prolific year. I feel like he was at the Senior Bowl, but he hurt his foot or something. I don't remember exactly. That was or day 1 or something. But yeah, I mean, he was an Alabama player.
I know you told me originally somebody got hurt. It might have been him. So
yeah, I mean,
was he the guy that they were messing with?
Yeah, well, that might have been him. I can't remember exactly. One of the coaches was given one of the guys who rolled his ankle to hell.
But he's a big boy, man. He's 6'5", 250.
Yeah, but like you said, I mean, he's not popping off the stat sheet. I mean, for what that is, 11.5 tackles for a loss in 10 games still isn't bad. That's 1 a game, basically. I'm okay with that. We'll see how he does at the combine, though. Then this could be a big week for him. Showcase that he's really, ready to take it to the next level.
I'm pretty sure he tore his ACL or something like that a couple of years ago, because he only has 2 years of play. So I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure he tore his ACL a couple years ago. So we could see, we only got basically as a linebacker, oh my God, it's my fault. 21 solo tackles is not something that I'm keen about.
Great. No, that's not great. But I mean, I think he was more of an edge rusher, really.
Yeah.
But he's just a guy to keep your eye on. I don't think we need to linger on him too long. I mean, we'll see how he does this week. We'll see how he does in the draft, and then we'll reassess. But we wanted to bring him up.
I know the next person that we kind of popped on our list because we wasn't really sure is Uche,
Yeah,
Josh
Josh
Uche
Uche.
from Michigan. 33 tackles, 21 solos, 7.5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, 2 fumble recoveries, a 1 forced fumble, and a pass deflection. He's not a tall guy, as you can see in this picture and in this card, but he is consistent. He's a guy that I think people are talking a lot about, and don't know exactly where he's going to fall out. I think he's going to be a late second round guy. We'll see what happens. We'll see. But I mean, went to the right school. He had a good coach. Harbaugh tends to, mold these players pretty well.
Yeah.
And at least you know where he got coached at.
He's got a really good, first move off the line of scrimmage from what I've seen. He's very fast, got very twitchy, I guess is maybe the right word. He just seems like he's in sync, I think he had a sack or two, or at least half a sack in the actual Senior Bowl. And he was, along with Bradlee Anae, he was one of the other main kind of defensive end, edge rusher guys who really excelled at everything that I saw all week across the board. He's a guy that I definitely like. Like you said, he's a little bit undersized, I think.
He's 6'2", which kind of in that weird spot where he can get under a lineman.
Yeah, I saw a mock where they had him going to the Steelers. I wouldn't mind that if they got rid of Bud Dupree. You know what I mean? That's like in the second round. I think that would be, a nice compliment to TJ Watt. I mean, if you can get 7-8 sacks out of him on a consistent basis, that's basically what you've got on a Bud Dupree, right? So cheaper.
He'd be a lot cheaper. That's exactly what we're talking about. So,
yep.
I could. That's a spot for him for sure. I could see that. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see where he comes from. Last guy on our list, which I'm high on because I loved his dad playing football. Antoine Winfield Jr. Right, this dude, Minnesota guy, 83 tackles, 58 solo, 7 interceptions, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, a pass deflections, and a touchdown. Right. If you watch him, man, he's a rover. I mean, he just seems to be around the ball. And he's a guy that I'm extremely high on, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's one of the better safety prospects in this class. Especially from a tackling point of view. I mean, he was very productive. I didn't watch his dad or anything, but I've been aware of him and seen him on a lot of scouts lists, very high. You kind of have to trust these scouts at this point. I'm not a scout. I read a lot of their stuff, and I think there's enough eyes on it where enough guys that are capable will see stuff. And a lot of people really. He's one of the guys that I see consistently high on people's defensive back, safety rankings.
Now, again, let's talk about this. These are this year's stats.
Mm-hmm.
7 interceptions.
Yeah, I mean that's got. You want to talk about gaudy,
dude? 3 sacks. I mean, he's everywhere from the backside all the way to right in your mouth, player. Which reminds me a lot of probably your favorite safety in the league, in Jamal Adams.
I do love me some Jamal Adams.
Because Jamal Adams scares you on the backside. And he just comes out of nowhere and gets you a sack, and a forced fumble, and then an interception, and then a touchdown, and then
he's the most versatile and capable. He might be the most versatile and capable player in the whole NFL. I mean, when you really think about it, I'm interested.
Talk about to finally have a time to shine. In Antoine Winfield Jr.'s senior season, he did this. He did not have, And I don't know if it was like just the coaching aspect or whatever, just how they ran the defense. But Minnesota balled out this year. He balled out this year. I was impressed, dude. I really like this kid, and I think he went from probably a fourth, fifth round guy last year to a first and second round guy this year. I'm really excited to see how he tests out, to be honest with you, in his pro day and in the combine. So yeah. I'm actually – he didn't get a Senior Bowl invite, did he?
I don't think he was there, no.
Which is really interesting to me because they didn't have gaudy players on the backside. So
that was something that during the press conference that Jim Nagy, the guy who runs it, kind of said, you know, they do invite some of those guys. He said, but one of the main things that the Senior Bowl prides himself on is, you know, including all guys, you know, kind of at all levels based on their talent. They want to get some of these lesser known guys a chance to be seen.
Like we said, Kyle Duggar could have been out of the mix.
Exactly. Kyle Duggar could have just been a guy that people had heard about, but because he was at the Senior Bowl, he was a guy that a lot of people had eyes on. You know, a lot of organizations had eyes on. And even if it's just in one tiny concentrated microcosm of a week, it's still more exposure than he would have got from the, you know, 5, 10, 15 scouts that saw him all year. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I agree. Well, that gets our list 11 to 20. The combine starts today. Obviously, introductions. The guys are getting their clothes and their spandex and all, whatever.
Yeah. Kind of a shorter episode today, but you know, we're just kind of prepping you guys for the week, you know, and the draft. Really, you know, get some names out there in your heads. These are some guys to watch. You know, they hopefully all do well and test well, and you know, continue to have success at the next level. That's what we obviously want for all these guys, but you know, it may or may not happen, but I'm excited to see how they do this week.
All right, I'm going to bring Steve back in here and let us know what we missed, because I think that we got everything, but I'm sure that I missed a thing or two. So Steve, pop back in here and let me know when you're ready. What did we miss, big fella?
Oh, you didn't miss anything. Just going to mention that Troy Dye had a broken thumb during that period.
Gotcha.
Yep. And I don't know if I can mention this enough. You said you were really high on Antoine Winfield Jr. I don't know if you're high enough on him.
Really?
Yep.
You're big on him, huh?
I think so. Yep. Yeah. I think he's great.
I think he's that good. I really do. Mm-hmm. I like players with pedigree.
Yep.
And guys like Bradlee Anae, right? Good example. You know, Antoine Winfield Jr. You know, we're talking about
a ball hawk, man.
Yeah, it's crazy how good he is. Well, that's good. I'm glad we covered everything and didn't miss too much. Terrell Lewis, did he have the ACL?
Yeah.
Okay. Man, I was right. So I like when I'm right. We'll see how it works out. Guys that like this group, I like the setup. Leave us a comment. Let us know how you like the setup.
Yeah.
And until next week.
Let's go.
Let's go.